Hey, in this video, we will go through some of the theory behind non-formal education to share with you a little bit more on how to create participatory and collaborative spaces with groups of young people. How do we learn? In a classroom? From a book? Your education is important, but education shouldn't be the same. It should come from and give us the experiences we need to streamline our learning. Using the learning pyramid, we can see the main categories of education: symbolic experiences, iconic experience, and direct, purposeful experience. Learning techniques can be split into formal and non-formal education. So, what is non-formal education? Non-formal education means that children and young people critically analyse existing power structures on all levels of society and are motivated and empowered to take action for social change. For us, it also means that in our groups and activities, participants can experience a counterworld full of solidarity. We aim to create spaces where children and young people do not have to experience the discrimination and exclusion that they face in their everyday lives, but rather experience cooperation and equality within their group. We make sure that the themes, methods, and language we use in the learning space is considerate of the wealth of experiences and knowledge that we have in the room. The community learning space is built and maintained by the participation and contribution of folks in the room, so it can be a very sensitive space. It is therefore important to work on the principles of respect, equality, and friendship. But we might also need to think about other ways that we can make people feel safer. We facilitate young people exchanging and learning from their peers by making their contributions feel important and valuable. By doing this, we also build in them the confidence and skills to take ownership and leadership over the learning process. To understand what non-formal education really is, we look to Pablo Freire, a Brazilian educator and theorist. Freire critiques the educational processes in which students are supposed to remain passive and absorb knowledge. Freire uses the banking model of education to explain depositing knowledge into passive students. The name refers to the metaphor of students as containers into which educators must put knowledge. Non-formal education, on the other hand, favours a dialogue between those learning and those facilitating, challenging the idea that this relationship must always be one where an expert educates those without knowledge. The focus, instead, is on challenging the ways that knowledge is presented as fixed in its meaning or ideologically neutral, and forging a common understanding to solve specific problems and transform our world. As humans, we learn in an array of different ways. However, direct experience is vital for effective communication and learning. Particularly for children and young people, real and concrete experiences are necessary to provide the foundation of meaningful and impactful learning. Learners retain more information by what they do rather than what they hear, read, or observe. The experiential learning style theory is typically represented by a 4-stage learning cycle in which the learner touches all the bases. Concrete experience. Through the act of experiencing or doing something, like playing or moving, participants experience new opinions or feelings. Reflective observation. Participants share observations, reactions, and feelings about the experience through reflective writing and discussions. Abstract conceptualization. The group looks for patterns and considers where there are similarities with the real world. And active experimentation. Participants use what they have learned and consider what actions they can take to contribute to change. When designing non-formal educational processes, we have to consider the importance of a group process designed around direct engagement and the experiential learning cycle. Bruce Wayne Tuckman came up with a model for group development, which we use to plan non-formal education events. Tuckman's model consists of forming, storming, norming, and performing. Forming is when the groups concern themselves with orientation, accomplished primarily through testing. Such testing serves to identify the boundaries of both interpersonal and task behaviours. Coincident with testing in the interpersonal realm is the establishment of dependency relationships with leaders, other group members, or pre-existing standards. Storming is characterised by conflict and polarisation around interpersonal issues with associated emotional response in the task sphere. Norming. In the norming stage, in-group feeling and cohesiveness develops, new standards evolve and new roles are adopted. In the task realm, intimate personal opinions are expressed. Performing. The group attains the stage in which interpersonal structure becomes the tool of task activities. Roles become flexible and functional, and the group energy is channeled into the task. Structural issues have been resolved, and the structure can now become supportive of task performance. Non-formal education can be seen in action in these photos from workshops and activities that have taken place during the Amplify Project with positive outcomes. As you can see, the participants are not all sitting down and making notes, but instead they're moving around the space and engaging with each other. You can also see some examples of visual facilitation where the dialogue is represented through drawings. Non-formal education is an effective and vital form of education and should be introduced into more mainstream educational spaces. The content in this video was developed by young people during the Amplify Project by IFM-SEI in partnership with Oxfam Quebec, Oxfam Italia, Apathy is Boring, Citoyennete Jeunesse and Youth Policy Labs. The Amplify Project is co-funded by the European Union.